So, today we're going to talk about another Hive strategy that will give you a strong start, but it's also very good in the late game, because who needs 7 tiers of units when all you need is 1? But on a serious note, we'll be playing with Maelstrom, who is Hive's Reaver specialist. He also happens to be a might hero, and he happens to start with a basic insight, which will allow him to level up faster. He will increase the Reaver growth in your cities, he will also give them more stats. And more importantly, he starts the game with Reavers in his army, which will help us counter the Hive's problem with the lack of ranged units in the early game. So there is a little bit of variance involved with this guy, because you can start with either 2 or 3 Reavers, and with this kind of unit, that obviously makes a pretty big difference, but even with 2 you should be fine. And one of the biggest advantages of having the Reavers this early on is that they have base initiative of 11, and with this hero you get even more initiative because he gives them a bonus, and all of that means they will almost always be the highest initiative unit on the field. So that means you can wait on 1 turn and then essentially get 2 actions in a row. Later on you'll be able to get even more than that, but we'll get to that later. They can also do some pretty absurd amounts of damage. The only downside is that they have a pretty big damage spread, so there is a fairly major RNG element to it, but their damage can get really disgusting, especially later on. And finally, they have a rapid assault attack, which only costs 1 focus, and allows you to perform a melee attack that does not provoke a counterattack. Furthermore, this hero in particular also starts with Insight, which will allow you to get experience faster, level up faster, and because he's a might hero, you are essentially guaranteed to be offered combat at least once at some point early on, so then you'll probably want to pick that up and level it up to Expert so that you can get Heroic Strike for 0 focus cost and also remove counterattacks with it at Expert. So then not only you'll be able to use focus to perform an attack that does not provoke a counterattack, you'll be able to remove counterattacks on any enemy unit that you want with Heroic Strike. So, since this guy is a Reaver specialist, you will obviously want to rush Apex as quickly as possible. You want to have this by the end of the first week. You generally want to have it by the end of the first week, but with this hero, that's pretty much non-negotiable. Now, if you want your life to be a little bit easier in the first week, I would still recommend upgrading the Neglected Housing, because then your Parasite will have 5 speed instead of 3, not to mention he will also do more damage. But that 5 speed makes the Parasite units just so much more useful in general, so the Ravager Parasite is the one you'll want. And he also has 6 initiative, which is pretty decent. So, let's get into a fight and I will show you what you'll want to do early on, or really at any stage. And this looks like a good one. Oh, well, we actually happened to get an auto-resolve with no casualties whatsoever. And this actually happens surprisingly often with these units from my experience so far. So I will accept this one, we'll just do a different one. You do want to grab those first few levels as quickly as possible. And there are a few really good skills you can pick up on this guy, like for example offense, because the biggest strength of the Reavers is the quite frankly disgusting damage they can sometimes do, so you do want to potentially pick up something like offense to stack even more damage on them. You'll also want to potentially pick up something like leadership or luck, so that you can get, even more turns, lucky strikes for even more damage. Not to mention, both leadership and luck are generally very good with the Hive and with the Reavers, because with the Elite Reavers faction low, you give them even more morale and luck, so it's relatively easy to cap them out at 5 morale/luck. Now, once you're offered combat, and you will be offered combat in the first few levels, I would generally take it for sure, because it's just so good in general. Then you want to pick up Effortless Strike as well as Confusing Strike, as mentioned earlier. You don't have to, but Expert Combat is just so good with those 2 upgrades, especially with this strategy in general. So here I'm already level 4. In this case I will take Advanced Summon Swarm. Yeah, here's the kind of fight that you can definitely do with 0 casualties. which means that I would definitely do these fights manually early on. And the number one thing you want to do with the Reavers is just wait, so that they can get 2 turns in a row. This is where leadership can also be extremely good, because you could potentially get 4 turns in a row. And later on, you can get even more turns in a row if you get the upgraded variant of the Reaver, which obviously you will want to get as soon as you can. And we'll discuss those in a bit. Yeah, so now I can move twice in a row, and because the Reaver already has pretty good speed, even higher speed because of this guy, they gain 1 speed and 1 initiative from this guy, so now I have 7. I can move into, for example, just attack this Ravager Parasite, and then I can either attack another unit or just move out. I will move out in this case because there's no real reason not to. And now we're level 5, we can pick up offense. Like I said, offense can be extremely good with the Reavers, because the biggest advantage of the Reavers that you want to capitalize on is the fact that they can do some pretty absurd damage. Same with offense, you want to prioritize attack, stat, so it can even be worth picking up some of the artifacts from the artifact trader. So we will take offense in this case. Yeah, so let's do another fight real quick, but you get the idea. And that extra 1 speed that you get from this hero makes such a significant difference. Actually, it might not seem like 1 speed would be that big of a difference, but the difference between 6 speed and the 7 speed is actually kind of insane a lot of the time. So in this case, what I can do, if I want to try getting lucky with my attack rolls, is attack this dude in the middle first, and then I can attack this guy at the bottom, because this one will not be able to reach me that way, and as long as I do some reasonably decent damage, yeah, this guy barely did any damage to me, I still have 49 health, so even with a low roll against this Warden Parasite, I shouldn't be anywhere close to losing even a single Reaver. So this is the kind of thing you'll generally want to do a lot in fights. It does take a little bit of micromanagement. Yeah, and now I can just attack this 21 stack. Even if I kill just 9 of them, they would not be anywhere close to killing my Reaver stack. And yeah, that was just a quick demonstration of the kind of thing that you want to do a lot. Now, there's a beer fountain in here, so I can grab that, and then probably just do this altar. We should be able to do this altar without any problems. I might need to get a decent roll. This guy has 12 initiative, I have 13. So I still have higher initiative than he does. Now, it would be helpful if I already had combat, as in advanced combat. Unfortunately, I do not yet, but we should still be fine even without that. So now I let him move, and then I can attack him with my Reaver. Now, unfortunately, this is where RNG kicks in, because if I get unlucky, I will kill none of them. If I get lucky, I might kill 2. I need to do, well, almost 200 damage to kill 2. So this will be more of a high end, as far as the roll is concerned. Okay, I got a lucky strike, and I killed the entire stack in one go. If I get a high roll with a lucky strike, the Reavers can do some really absurd amounts of damage. And here we can pick up advanced combat already, and pick up effortless strike. And this is only day 3. So we are already level 6 on day 3, we already have advanced combat, and now our life will be significantly easier. And after a few days, there's actually a pretty good chance that you will get a lot of the auto-resolves with 0 losses whatsoever with this strategy. Now, you'll still want to do a lot of them manually if you do lose some units, but the auto-resolve with this kind of strategy is actually pretty decent. Now, one more thing about the faction laws for the Hive is that you can get Hive integration, which will give all of your friendly creatures +1 attack. You will definitely want to do this eventually with the Reavers. Just generally speaking, you want to stack as much attack on your Reavers as possible, and then also obviously pick up more luck and morale when possible. Also, with focus reserves, you will start each battle with +1 focus charge, which is a very good one for this, because you need to have at least 1 focus to be able to use the special attack with the Reavers. And right at the start of each combat on the first round, you might not have enough focus for it. But with this, you will, and this is only tier 2. And as the Hive, you can already get to the 2nd tier faster than other factions do because of laws of the Hive. And then at tier 5, you can pick up Infernal Rage to get even more damage, as well as No Compassion to get an even higher chance of triggering either morale or luck. But the first thing you want to do is definitely rush Elite Reavers first. Still, the Hive has some pretty damn good faction laws. Alright, so here we are at the start of the second week. I got myself an Apex, so now I can pick up 7 more Reavers. So as long as you started with 3 and you didn't lose any, you can have 10 Reavers on the first day of the second week. Technically even more if you get fortifications too, but you would have to give up some other buildings. Even if you started with 2 Reavers, you will have 9, and that's a pretty damn good number at the start of the second week. Yeah, see, here's another fight with literally no losses with auto-resolve. And now we got level 7, so I can pick up Expert Summon Swarm. Now, getting Hive power with Expert Summon Swarm can be very good early on with this strategy, but if you picked up Leadership and or Luck, you don't need Hive power, especially with the faction law that gives Reavers even more morale and luck. The point is, there's a very good chance your Reavers will be capped out on morale and luck anyway. But it can be very useful either way, obviously for the rest of your army too. So now I got myself Expert Combat at level 7, which means the fights are even less risky than they were previously. I don't even need to use Focus on my Reaver to avoid getting counterattacked anymore. Yeah, I can let them move, and then I can just do this. And then I can use it again on the other one, and then do this. And I don't even need the rest of my army. Now, one quick side note, if you're playing as Hive and you get offered Primal Magic, it's almost always worth taking it, because as the Hive, you can pick up Ancient Power, which means that all of your Primal spells will gain 1 level. But that's just a quick side note. Now, there are 2 variants of the Reaver upgrade. They are both pretty good. One of them reduces your damage RNG, so your damage range will be 20 to 30 base damage instead of 10 to 40. However, if you really want to maximize your offensive potential, I would very highly suggest the Maniacal Reaver. And the reason is this passive skill over here. Upon killing an enemy, this creature immediately gains an additional turn. This ability cannot be used 2 times in a row, but morale can affect this additional turn. So if you are boosting your luck and morale, which you should be with this strategy, and there are many different ways to boost your luck and morale. As mentioned previously, you don't need to actually pick up luck or leadership. You can do it through the faction laws, you can also pick up some cheap artifacts and so on. And you can also get +1 luck and morale from Expert Summon Swarm. So if you really think about this, because the Reaver will usually get 2 turns in a row, due to his high initiative, as mentioned earlier, if you wait, you can potentially get 4 actions in a row just due to Murderous Glee, which gives you a total of 4 turns in a row, and potentially even 6 turns in a row, because the extra turn from the passive can be affected by morale, which in some really extreme scenarios could even allow you to kill the entirety of the enemy army before they get a chance to really react to it. That is, if you get lucky with lucky strikes and morale. So with this strategy, the Reavers can be absolutely disgusting. So I do highly recommend the Maniacal Reaver. And if you do not happen to have any good luck or morale synergies, and your morale and luck is still pretty low, you do have this skill over here, which does cost 2 focus, but it allows you to max out your morale and luck until the end of the round. It does not end the turn, so as long as you have the focus, you could always use something like Energize. You can use this to max out your morale. The downside is that this will end at the end of the round, but it is an option. But as mentioned, the number 1 reason to go for Maniacal Reaver is the Murderous Glee passive. This passive is absolutely disgusting if you get killing blows with the Reavers. And with Lucky Strikes and their insane damage potential, you will get a lot of killing blows. So now I got myself 17 Maniacal Reavers on day 1 of week 3. Because with fully upgraded fortifications and this hero, you will be getting 7 Reavers per week. Now we can attack something a little bit more juicy. Now unfortunately this stack has a bunch of ranged units, so there's a good chance I will end up losing a unit or 2. Now I do already have maxed out morale, so if I move a little bit on the first turn, I will have a chance of triggering that. If I wait, I will not have a chance of triggering that. And I can still stay out of range of these griffins. So I could do that. Now, I will likely lose a unit one way or another. That's going to be very hard to prevent. I can use optical illusion to reduce the amount of damage he will take, and then we can attack some of the crossbowmen with heroic strike. So that's basically what we're gonna do. Okay, yeah, he's targeting the parasite, which is totally fine. We don't really care about other units as much. Yeah, that guy did target the Reaver. He didn't die yet, but we'll probably lose one or two. Still, in a fight like this, we have to get past this stack because he's guarding the break. Yeah, now I can attack the griffins, but if I want to do it safely, I need to wait. I could still potentially kill this entire stack in one single attack, and that's without a lucky strike. They're just that good. So I can still do it. It's a little bit more risky, but I will almost definitely lose at least one Reaver anyway, so I will do it. And there you go, we killed almost that entire stack. And I still got all 17. Now again, this is not going to be the case much longer anymore, but now I could use Heroic Strike and attack, for example, this guy or this guy. I could do that. And I still have a chance to trigger morale. Okay, there you go, we got a killing blow, which means we trigger our extra turn. And now I could go after the other griffin, and I will still have a chance to trigger morale. Or I could go after the crossbowman. Either one works. Now, if I go after the crossbowman, there's a very good chance the griffin will attack me, and the griffin is moving next. So I'll want to go after the griffin. And there you go, we got yet another killing blow. Now, this one does not grant us an extra action, because this cannot trigger 2 times in a row. But you can see the potential. These guys have some absolutely disgusting potential. Now, the crossbowmen will still get an action, so if they target my Reaver, they will kill 2 of them. Okay, but now we can just kill them. There you go. They're just dead now. We lost a few units in the process, but against this army, that was probably inevitable, when they had ranged units. Now we can pick up Advanced Luck, or Advanced Offense, or Recruitment. There are many different options. I do happen to have Primal Magic, so I will take Beastly Confidence. And here I can start picking up Elite Reavers. If you get at least 1 or 2 low upgrades for your castles, you can definitely get Elite Reavers during the 3rd week. And this will increase their growth and also give them more morale and more luck. Not only that, with the 2nd Elite Reaver upgrade, they will gain 5 morale and 1 luck. So you will pretty much always have them capped on morale. And also, because your Reavers will almost always be maxed on morale, one of the very good reasons to pick up Advanced Offense is Battle Frenzy, which will give you +2 attack for each point of morale. So that's a pretty damn good one with this strategy. I would definitely recommend picking that up. And check this out. The Maniacal Reaver has 18 base attack, and I already have 48. And here I'm pretty much guaranteed to kill 1 stack with my first attack, which means I'm guaranteed to have 2 actions in a row no matter what. And both of them can trigger morale. So this strategy in general is just really strong. I would even say it's potentially stronger than Curson. Personally, I think it is stronger, because the Reavers are just that good. Especially this variant in particular. And here I can just kill them. You will have a lot of fights where the Reavers will do vast, overwhelming majority of damage. And now I maxed out Elite Reavers by the end of the 3rd week. Now, another good combat tip I have is that if you did not pick up the Tactics skill, which would allow you to deploy your units further in, and then it would allow your Reavers to reach the enemy ranged units on turn 1. If you didn't pick that up, I would highly recommend upgrading Haste, because upgraded Haste gives you +4 speed bonus. And +4 speed bonus is enough to reach the enemy ranged stacks. So I can just do this, and if I get lucky and kill this Light Weaver, I will get an extra turn, as you know. So I can even help myself with Heroic Strike. And there you go, now I could attack this one, or I could wait. I can do either one of those things. Both are potentially good, the only problem is that if I move in like this, the Sun's Aegis would be in my range, and I don't want him to be. So it's actually not a bad idea in this case to just back up and be out of range of this other Light Weaver. But you get the idea, you can either pick up tactics or you can pick up upgraded haste. Yeah, now I can wait because I got the morale. And now I can just do the same thing. So kill that, then attack him, remove his counter-attack. And, well, my Reaver killed literally everything. And now we're level 12. Also, another benefit of starting with Insight with this hero is that you can pick up Civic Innovation to get plus 100% low points, and the Hive, as discussed earlier, has some really good lows, which will synergize really well with this strategy in general. And here comes the AI hero. Now, he will kill me if I don't fight this manually, and we can see he has a pretty big army. So, it's time for our Reavers to shine. We do have 36 of them, which is a pretty big stack, and I got 16 Pyroboros. And as you can see, I got his attack up to 53. So that is quite a lot of attack right there. Now, if I use haste, I will still not be in range of the enemies, so I will not be doing that. We can, however, move forward and see if we get the morale pop. But if I don't get the morale pop, I will kind of waste my first turn. For now, let's just do actual damage with the towers, preferably to the ranged stacks, and then we'll just wait. There you go. And we could pop the eggs to distract them. That is not a bad idea, but we'll be better off doing that towards the end of this turn. And I will use Heroic Strike on the Vampire, because we will likely be attacking Vampire early on. Yeah, so with the Pyroboros, we want to attack this free stack right here, because we'll do damage to all of them. There you go, and we got high morale. And again, pretty good damage right there. Okay, it's almost time for our Reaver to shine. Now, I don't want to block the way for him right here, so I will not be standing here with my Ravager. He wouldn't do that much damage anyway, so it's not really worth doing. Okay, he did shoot me with his Archer, which means we lost 4 Reavers, but that's okay. So now we can attack the Vampire. Even if we don't kill the Vampire with his first attack, we are near guaranteed to get an extra turn here, unless I do minimal damage twice in a row, because the second attack will kill him, and then it will trigger Murderous Glee. So that's kind of what we're banking on here. I could attack the Hollow Reaper first. We are a bit more likely to kill the Hollow Reaper with the initial attack. Not by much though, so it doesn't make that big of a difference here. We'll go after the... Yep, Vampire, and the Vampire is dead. Now I can attack the Hollow Reaper, or I can go after his Archer. The Archer would probably be better. And then we are guaranteed to get yet another action directly after this. And I can spawn some eggs. Like this. So we'll go after the Archer, and then we'll go after the Lich. And we got Lucky Strike and killed the entire stack of Archers. That was 2,514 damage. We killed 339 Archers right there. Yeah, like I said, these guys can do some pretty disgusting amounts of damage. And I got my attack up to 53. Their base attack is 18. So, yeah, that's quite a bit higher than base. Now, if I wanted to avoid getting counter-attacked, now I can take advantage of Rapid Assault, but my Heroic Strike refreshed, so I'll just use that, and we can save our focus for something else. So now we attack this guy, and we got another Lucky Strike, and he's dead. And because this is a new turn, I got Murderous Glee again for the second time. So I got 4 actions in a row with this guy. Yeah, and we could still potentially trigger morale. That is entirely possible. If I attack this Hollow Reaper or the Barghest, I could trigger morale, because that can happen. So let's attack the Reaper. Okay, I did not trigger morale, but we did some pretty disgusting amounts of damage. And now I can just finish them off. And this is a fight that we lost for auto-resolve. We actually lost this fight from auto-resolve. But this is the kind of potential that we're talking about. I would even go as far as saying that the Reaver might just be one of the best melee units just in the game as a whole. He's certainly up there. As far as his offensive potential goes, it is definitely one of the best offensive melee units in the game. Certainly one of the best Hive units. And there we go. By the way, this was with AI set to unfair, as in the actual AI difficulty, which is the highest possible. And these were my actual settings. so AI was set to unfair, which means it utilizes all possible and impossible means to seize the victory. But that also concludes this video, so I hope that you enjoyed this presentation of the Reaver's potential. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe for more Olden Era content. I'll see you next time.